Well, thanks for having me, and it's good to see a lot of familiar faces. So this will be something where I'm going to really ask you to participate. I want you to interrupt me if you have something you can share, and let's make this interactive, because ultimately there's some stuff we could get to and satisfy. Yep.
Does that have to be productive?
We'll see. Test it. Say it out loud, and then just kidding. Okay, so I'm Tony Olson. We're here to talk networking. So we're here to talk about something that has some bad connotations sometimes. So I want to ask everybody in this room to raise your hand if you can honestly say you love networking, like it's just an awesome thing. Okay. So a pretty good number of people in here. All right. So I could say that I love networking. And that always hasn't been the case, though. So for the other people in the room that didn't raise your hand, I was probably where you were a while back. And some of that really had to do with perceptions. Networking can be forced. It can feel, you can get anxious. You can walk into a room and not know the people, not know the crowd, and you go in there without a goal. You're not quite sure what you're going to get out of it. And then the other side, you get sold. Everybody's handing you a business card. You want to be, you're getting overwhelmed with, hey, yes, I have a banker. I understand. We've got relationships built already, and so you get sold all the time. So you get this mentality where you go in there and things happen. You get these bad connotations. So one of the things that I want to talk about today is there's a lot of surface level stuff. There's a lot of little things like little tricks and trades you can do in networking. I've seen a lot of you around. I know a lot of you are pretty good at this. You understand that. So I'm kind of going to skip over a lot of that. And I want to just I'm going to go into about 4 different points. And what we're going to do is I would like to talk about those because what I always talk about, and this is even stuff we do at the chamber, is I want to dive deeper. I want to dive into how you can make it more meaningful. Oh, you're good. You are good. I'm going to make you introduce yourself right as you walk in, right? You are good. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a few of those points, and like I said, we're going to have you give some feedback, and I want you all I'm going to encourage you to help each other. So we're going to find some different ways we can help each other and take that next step in networking. So I want to give you kind of my story on how I went from not liking networking to liking it. So I'm from Ames, Iowa. Skip a slide here. So I'm from Ames, Iowa, and I have a beautiful family, wife, and 3 boys that are crazy right now. This isn't too long ago, so that's about their ages, 7 to 3. And so I'm from Ames, Iowa. I moved down here to UMKC. I came down to go to the Block School of Business in 1999. I played 4 years of golf at UMKC, got a business degree, and just fell in love with the city. I was in my hometowns, obviously, Iowa State University, so big Iowa State fan. We didn't do so good in the tournament this year, as most of us didn't do in our tournament brackets, but I got...
Or are you not close to that?
What's that?
Are you a Hawkeye fan, or is that like...
I was born in Iowa City, so yes, I was rooting very hard for those women, too. It didn't quite pan out, but... So I came down, and I came to a city I didn't know anybody in. And so I went to school, and a couple years in, I started my first business, and it was in 2001. I started a landscaping business, and I actually started it back in Ames, Iowa, with a friend. And what I found is I love business. I love the behind-the-scenes things. I love working with the strategy. I love working and building something and having the freedom to kind of do what you want to do. And so I got hooked on that. And so as I started getting towards the end of my career in college, I was like, what is this going to look like for the next step? And what I realized is I love the people side. I really liked interacting with people, the customers. I love seeing that the start to finish in a sales process where they're happy and you get that product and you walk away. I love seeing that. And so as I started thinking about what the next step was, restaurants popped up into my head because I get to have that personal interaction. I get to interact, and I also get this really short turn where they come in and they're happy right away. I don't have to wait for the whole project to be done a month later, a couple weeks later. I get to turn that, and I get to see that, and it's like a drug sometimes. And so I realized that was a big part of what I enjoyed is that interaction in those people. And so that took me through the next 21 years. I was looking at how long I've been in the restaurant business. 21 years I've been working in a restaurant. I've owned 9 different concepts around Kansas City, 6 different restaurants at one time. And They're all different concepts too. I had one 24-hour, I had one bar, I had a breakfast restaurant, and I realized, hey, I don't get to do the people side as much anymore as I started, and the part that I like. And there's a lot of business side. And so this has kind of run its course, and we've gotten back down, and I have now my only restaurants we have are Neighborhood Cafe. So as I started, and my wife works in the business too, as we started looking at the next steps, the journey kind of took a little turn, and that was kind of a fun next step. And I'm going to click ahead to this. What happened was I got invited. I want to tell you a little story. So I got invited by somebody to join a networking group, and it was one of those referral groups, seat specific. Won't mention the name, but we went in there, and I got invited, and I'm like, I'm kind of at the tail end where I'm starting to think about next steps, getting out of the restaurant business. So I wasn't driving catering. I wasn't like in there just hustling. I did that for a lot of years. But I took this invite, and they said, hey, our restaurant seat's open. So come in, and I visited them. And I'd already been networking with the chamber, and I kind of did that thing. I did the, hey, glad hand. I would walk in and try to meet a bunch of people, and I didn't know what I was doing there. And that's where some of that anxiety came up. Well, I got into this room, and I met this little tiny group of people in this meeting. And I said yes just to see what it was about. I was like, you know what? I'm trying to surround myself with a different crowd of people. And so people I haven't talked to before. So I showed up at this meeting, and there was a group about 5 people that I just started getting to know. And I was in there for about a year, and I started getting to know them. I started building relationships, and they were clicking, and it was like a little high energy. But I didn't get that from everybody. And so what I realized is there's an element of this that was resonating. And I hadn't been looking for it. I didn't know what it was, but I just started connecting with these people. And so I started saying, what is it about that group that makes me click or makes me excited? And it was the energy. It was like they were kind of hungry. They were hungry in their business. They were high energy people. And a couple of them were brand new in business. And I remember when I was brand new in business years ago, where you just are out the door, you're doing everything you can, you're taking every job you can, and you couldn't be sad or upset about it if you wanted to. You can just persevere with the adrenaline part. But I was missing that, and so to be around that again kind of got me excited. And so I said, I want a group that's like that. And so I looked around, and I saw some different groups that existed, and there was little pockets of it. And so I had the opportunity to say, hey, I had a brother-in-law that was changing industries. He was going to be a mortgage broker. I had another brother-in-law that was going to start his own business. And I had some other people that were kind of that I was already connecting with. And I said, hey, let's get together, and let's just find people that are like this to launch a group with. And so we started getting together. And pretty soon, we started getting more people asking to join, and we started growing. And that's where Referral Madness came out of that little group. And what we did is we focused on relationship first. And so I took kind of what I found, and I got introduced into the networking world, a bunch of different groups, got really pinned and dove a little deeper into this group. And that wasn't quite the right group for me. And it was a great group. There's a lot of good people that were doing things in there. I just wanted to see this aspect of it honed in a little bit more. And so we started our own. Well, come to find out, there's a lot of people doing that all over the city, and which is a fun thing. So we started Referral Madness. We've grown to 10 chapters. We actually have 7 chapters right now all over the city. And through that process, and it was about a year that we really realized we had almost a business model, a business that we could promote. We started building systems, and we started saying, what do we want this to look like? And it was relationship. It was relational first versus forcing some of those things that you kind of force yourself to do in networking. So we said, if we build the relationships, the business, the other stuff will come. And so that's what we liked about it. So we also developed a software, and this is the part that kind of gets me out in front of other groups, is we developed software called Referral Runway. And we have started selling that. And so now what I get to do is I get to go around and take these opportunities to other networking groups. I get to visit with chamber leads groups. I get to visit with groups that are just starting, with referral groups that have been going for a long time, with associations that just are trying to find a way to connect to their members. They're all doing something a little bit different, and they're trying to find a way to dive deeper and to try to make that connect. And so that's where I could honestly say when we got about a month in and 2 months in, I started realizing I love networking. And now, what do I love about networking? Networking wasn't necessarily something that the act of networking is what I was looking for and why I love that. What I love about it is that I can surround myself with energy. So I can walk into a room and I can get filled up. So I get filled up by other people's energy, that excitement for their business when I hear a story being told. The other thing I like is helping somebody. What I realized that you can do by listening and by finding out what your experiences can have an impact on this other person is that you can help them avoid all these mistakes that you made. And so you really get to know them and build them up. So I liked helping them. And that's led down to all these other paths of mentoring, of coaching, and doing some different things. And so that's kind of the full circle of what got me into it. And what I like about the end of that story, which is it started with an invite, a simple invite to a group. It turned into me finding a whole new passion. And now it's out of the restaurant business. So my wife is running the restaurants. I get to go eat now. She kicks me out when I start talking anything that's not productive, kicks me out of there quick. And I get to interact with people. I get to go to these meetings. I get to be around business owners and business professionals that lift me up. And so I get this big high by being in rooms like this and talking to people that are going through this journey. So finding the right people and finding the right events. So I didn't have the right events, so I created my own. So one of the things that we talk about right people, right events is a little quote up here. You're the average of 5 people you spend the most time with, including yourself. That is, there's a bunch of different quotes like that too that you can look around and see where you're going to go by who you're talking with and who you're interacting with. And isn't that true? Because where do you find your best deals and where do you find your next opportunities? It's who you see the most. And so are you in the right places right now? Are you thinking about who you're interacting with, and are you thinking about where you want to be in your business? So I want to challenge you right now. I want you to think about where you're networking, where you're hanging out, and this is the easiest thing, is networking is a lot of different places. It doesn't have to be a structured place. It could be grabbing that coffee or just even talking to somebody when you walk through that door. So who do you want to be? And so I want you to you got paper? I want everybody to start thinking of this. And I would love for you to come up with 5 people. That would be the greatest exercise, is get to those 5 people because that's what you want to start working on building. So today, at least if you can come up with 1. Now I want to hone that in a little bit. It could be a person. It could be a person that has a name right now. You already know who they are. It just popped in your head and you're like, yeah, that guy. It could be this business. They're where I want to be. They're 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road. They have this much in sales. They're where I want to be. I had a realtor come to me a while back, and he was networking in one of our groups, and he said, hey, I want my business to look like this. And he goes, do you know anybody? And I said, yes, I know 2 people. And so I introduced them right away, and I sent them off, and it was somebody that was way beyond it, and then there was somebody that was kind of the next step. And I said, go talk to them. And he went and had coffee, and I think it went well. I haven't heard the ends of it. But introducing yourself to that person and going and networking with them is going to get you closer to where you want to be. So if you can look around and say, what is your group that you're networking with right now? And this is a network. We're networking in here. So if you're before and after you're chatting with people, are you talking to the same people? And are they those people that are on that list? And if not, we need to add that. At least add it. Doesn't mean you're going to excommunicate all these people that you're talking to right now and you're going to kick all your friends to the curb. It means that those are the people that we want to get intentional with. So does everybody have somebody that kind of popped into their mind there? Is there somebody in here that's struggling with that? Yeah?
I will volunteer. I just go and meet everybody and yeah.
Okay.
To pick 5, it's like picking one dessert.
Okay. So start with where you want to be. What is your goal? What's your next step? Maybe it's a career next step. Maybe it's a growth next step. Maybe it's a personal. So network doesn't have to be all business. What if it's somebody that has reached a pinnacle where he can go to networking groups every day and he can leverage his network that he's built for a bunch of years and he's on to the next step? Daryl? So you don't have to pick on you. You're close here. So is it a personal thing? Is it I want to see who's on your list.
Well, I don't have it. I mean, a lot of people come to mind. If it's the old business world that I was in, the networking with people, or if it's the group here, I've been a member of the chamber for 11 years, so probably the most important person back then was Bob Glazer. Our kids all went to Blue Springs South. We didn't do anything at Lee Summit. And he said, no, you need to join. You need to know these people, because I knew everybody in Lakewood and Blue Springs and where we went and all that, but as I've said before, these, I probably say it like this, but these are the best friends money can buy here.
There you go. There you go.
But there's, you pick out people. I mean, I've met the mayor and the new city manager now, Mark, finds out he's from UCM and rugby player and all this, but just interesting people. But I don't know. The one thing about networking events to me, and you didn't ask this, and I'm rambling on with this stuff, but you got to prepare. When you go there, you have to prepare who's there. I mean, the decent thing, the chamber is always, you can tell who's going to be. And now with the new software, you can see who's going to be at the lunch, which I always wanted to know too. And if you know who's there, then you can kind of target leave nothing to chance. I mean,
Great point.
I made it a point in the industry, for the copier technology industry with events. I found out who was the person who could get me the list of people who were going to be there all the time. How'd you get the list?
Grease some palms. There you go.
Yeah, but anyway. So that network is
So
expanded to.
So you said some city people there. So mayor might be your next on your next list, right?
The mayor, yeah.
Mayor of Lakewood, then Lee Summit.
It's very interesting, all of it. My dad was a town barber in a little town of 350 people, and he knew everybody. That's where I get this from, and
Cool.
I like to operate. And that's not a bad word. Some people may say, wait, what's that? But I like to do business with people I know and I trust. People work on my house, they're usually chamber members.
Good.
Because I know when they work in cars or chamber members. An integrity that we had a ribbon cutting for, unbelievable people work on a car. Not that everybody doesn't have their person, but you just find people like that.
Perfect. He's already hitting on the next slides of how you do it, right? No, just
If
kidding.
I could hear, I would talk like you all the time. I'm hearing it.
So who came up with just a business or the idea of what you want to who you want to be around? Did anybody have trouble putting a name on that? Matt?
A business that I've always, for my business, aspired to and kind of looked at since I've joined the chamber is the Cundiffs and what they've done with Weedman.
Cool.
And it's a different industry than what I do, but what they've built and how they've grown it, how they've franchised it and have multiple locations is very intriguing and something that I always looked and aspire to get to that next level.
Awesome. And they're very approachable,
Yeah, very approachable people.
as far as sharing and giving back, mentoring. So that's a great one. So can you call them up for coffee? Can you take them out for lunch? Can you surround yourself with them? Where are they going to be at? What event are they going to be at next? Let's go sneak up on them. Don't stalk them, yeah, right? Anybody else want to share? Good job. Sure.
Companies with people who don't communicate well.
Okay, so clients, people you like to work with.
Yes.
Perfect. Because those are people that are gonna feed your business, and you're gonna find out how to elevate your business too by talking to them and get close business.
And most of those would be financial companies.
Okay.
For me.
Cool. Yeah.
What media do you use to communicate?
It could be any media. So face to face, obviously a lot of stats, and I've got some fun little stuff in there, but there's a lot of stats on closing deals still requires face to face. And the more you can handshake and be in person with them, it's an astronomically higher rate of close than just doing things over the phone, over emails, over text. So if you can get into a room with them, that's the best. The other side is if you can get into the room with them where they're comfortable, their guard is not necessarily down, but they're at ease with the interaction. It's not forced. That helps. And so, setting it up, setting a follow-up from a networking event to go dive deeper and have coffee, have lunch, have breakfast or something. Those are good ways to do that. So, how do we get from here to there? I do want to say one practical purpose for me, so I'll answer my own question on that, is I started doing some coaching. I started doing some mentoring. And in the one-on-one coaching, I started thinking about who my next client's going to be. And a friend who helps coach me, he said, who's your next client? And I said, okay, it looks like this. And he asked, are you hanging out with them? Are you networking with them? And I said, you know what? I'm probably not. I said, there's a couple people. It's very specific. I was looking for somebody very specific. And I realized I'm not, at least on a regular basis. And one of the guys that popped into my head is a very specific person. Now, he's not a client that would be there, but he is a guy that he steps ahead of where I would like to be. And I met him at a men's breakfast Bible study. We kind of get together and hang out, pretty low key, once a month. And the way he talks and the way he wants to help people, he's in that spirit. And so I texted him and I said, all right, I need to get in front of him. So I said, hey, I sent him a text and I said, I want to just sit down with you. I'm looking for what's next. I'm looking for this next opportunity. And I'd love to pick your brain because he said stuff, he's led into it. And so I put it on the spot. And he said, absolutely. So he had that mentor, and I got some of that feeling from him that he would help out, and he's helped out other people. I've known that. And so I said, hey, I want to be helped now. I want to sit down. I want to pick your brain and find ways to help each other. And so that is something that I had to evaluate in my own network. And now I'm going to go try to find ways to put myself in rooms with people like that. So that's just the first one I found, and I'm going to plan on looking for more. So if you haven't got a name on there yet, because I also want to circle back to this at the end, and if we can find a way to connect you with everybody's networking here, I want everybody to share some places they're networking, some groups that they're networking with, because we could do this by just tapping into that and making some connections. And that's where we're going to put some practical steps to this. Okay, so how do you get them to that next step? When you walk into that room, and there's a lot of things. That's why I said I'm going to skip over some of the basics. Obviously, you should be nice to them. You should shake their hand. You should, there's a lot of professional things you could do. When you're networking, you can, be open. So I'll allow people to come up and talk to you, and vice versa. You can go to their groups. There's a lot of those things, and we'll answer any of those questions if you guys wanting that help at the end. But one of the coolest things, and this actually came from a sales training that I was working on, and it applies very well to networking. So how you approach a networking group, there are ways to get that next step, to get that deeper connection. And it's all about what you say. So sometimes we're nervous, like we talked about, like, what do we say? If we're in a room with people that are a different level and we're not sure, you're quite qualified to be there, you're not sure what to say, you're trying to impress them, you're getting into some of that anxiety, there's some simple things you could do. So ask questions. So be interested, not interesting. I'll start with this one up here. This is the overarching theme. If you are interested, people talk. You want them to talk. You want to ask questions. You want to dig deeper. If you're just trying to be interested, and this is where I was when I first started, I wanted to act like I belonged. I wanted to say the right thing, and so I was talking too much. And it wasn't getting anywhere. And I'd get done, I'd be like, oh, I did really good. What did I get out of it? Nothing, or very little. And then it was a lot harder to get back to connected with them. And so once I got that confidence of hey, why am I here? What am I trying to get out of this? It helped me take this next step. And so if you ask questions and dig deeper, obviously talk less, it allows you to steer the conversation where you want it to go. So the goal, I think, the most important goal is to find commonality between somebody at a networking event. Find something you have in common. Now, this is the sales training part where you're trying to find the need that you're going to fill. So it works here too because you're going to try to steer this and ask questions and say, what are you dealing with in your business? What are you going through? Oh, tell me more about that. Oh, I heard you say that. Is this, repeating back to them what they're saying. When they feel listened to, it opens them up. And this is the sales part of it, which that allows them to tell you where they want to go. Pretty soon you can pick and choose where they're going, and then you stop. You go, that's really cool. And that's it. You don't say anything else. Well, what do? They ask you how you're doing because you just spent, the first few minutes talking about them, and they got to ramble on and they feel good, and you walked them through this thing. Well, guess what you did during that whole time of steering those questions is you steered them right into something. Oh, it's funny you asked that. I actually work with clients that do exactly what you just said. Or I know somebody that I could put you in touch with right now that would deal with that. I have somebody that's looking for a job. You said you're struggling hiring. I have somebody that I could connect you with to do that. So you steered them right into something that you can make a connection with. Now, you didn't have to start that conversation knowing anything about them. You didn't have to know, what they did, what they need. And it wasn't like, hey, let's try to make this work. Let's try to force this relationship together. It was just, hey, let's talk. And you know what? If you get to the end and there wasn't something glaring that was a common point that you want to go on with, hey, walk away. end the conversation, and you've gotten the relationship started, but you also get all that info. You get the intel. So they might do this to you, and they might start asking you questions, and that's where that relationships really get stronger. So when you don't know what to do, be interested, not interesting. One of the, obviously, questions all the time. Which came first, chicken and egg? Well, I have the answer. I'm going to settle this once and for all, but I want to jump through a couple of things first. So, networking is about relationships. We just talked about that. To start building those, there's some things that get in the way. And like we just talked about, there's some things that can hang you up from building that relationship, from asking the right questions. We talked about being a little insecure, not knowing how to do this the right way. Keeps those. Those are all barriers. But there's a couple that came up that I'd like to put up here. And there's questions we ask ourselves. And sometimes we hold ourselves back. And these turn into limiting beliefs. So these are questions you ask yourself. Am I a good leader?
That's not a question.
Am I successful? And you'll see why I wrote it this way in a second. Am I good at sales? And do I belong in this room? And these are stuff as you say them like this, you're even questioning yourself. So, I am a good leader? Is it something that you believe? Is it something that you can trust? When we tell these things about ourselves, we want to be these things, it limits our networking. And I put these up there because these are things that I have dealt with. When I started coaching, do I have the value? Do I know what to say? Am I going to have the answer? And when I started leading our groups, am I a good enough leader? Can I stand up here and speak relevant topics and get value to the people in the room? And I'd always kind of say, well, yeah, I could do that. I was like, when I get to this point. I could do that when I've spoken to 10 people, when I've spoken to 20 people, 30 people. And then I'll be a good speaker. I'll be a good leader when I've got 10 groups of people or even 2 groups. Am I good at sales? Oh, I need to close this much business in order to be a good salesperson. And then, for me, it ultimately led to, do I belong in this room with these people? And so I want to change your perspective, and that's where we get to the answer to that question, is the answer is the chicken. And I came to that revelation because when you think of what you want to be, you have to take away the qualifiers. You have to take away I will be this when this happens. And you have to lead like you're already there. So you have to be the chicken. You have to think like you're the chicken. If the chicken is where you want to be, I am a good leader. Let's take the question marks away now. I am successful. I am good at sales. I do belong in this room. And so whatever that is for you, be it now and start acting like it. Because there's a lot of teachings, believe that you are, believe you'll achieve. There's tons of self-help gurus that will say that. Now, some of them just go, hey, you just think it and it will be. It's like, okay, that's good, but is that it? There's work to be done there. So yes, it doesn't mean you stop attempting to be better and stop training and stop practicing, but your mindset goes a long way when you think you belong there. When you know that you are a good leader, and now, therefore, I am a good leader, therefore, I will lead with integrity. I am a good salesperson, therefore, I will be confident in my sales and confident in the product I'm selling. I do belong in this room. Even though I'm not where these people are, I have value to bring to this conversation. So when you get done with that conversation that you just probed them and got them to talk about their business for a long time, when they turn around, you're going to provide that value back. And know that it's valuable. It's an experience that they didn't have. You are valuable in every experience that you had because that's unique to you. And so know that wherever you're at, whatever room you are in, there's something you can provide of value. So get rid of those limiting beliefs.
So even though you're an egg, you fake like you're a chicken.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? You're already a chicken, and then you act like a chicken, right?
I don't have any legs.
Chicken legs. All right, so to make it stick, so we talk about going to the networking events. We talk about things that are out there, and we'll get to those in a minute. Where I'd like to hear where you're networking at, where you're showing up at. But once you're done with those, once you leave that event, and we just had one, I saw a lot of you at the Fun Fridays event. That was a mashup of a bunch of events a bunch of groups that I know you are all in. You're all separate groups, and I want you to talk about those in a minute. But what happens? Because that was an overwhelming event, and I actually was chatting with somebody on the side. And they're like, this is too many people in here. And I could see that. And it's almost too many people where what do you do next could be overwhelming. And so I love how Jeff Driscoll pulls it back together when he's talking about that come in with a goal and make it a really small goal. Meet with 2 people, that's it. Just have a goal to set an appointment with 2 people. And so set a meetup, put it in your phone. I've never seen something more powerful than when you're like, yeah, we should get together. And you pull out your phone and you go, all right, when? It almost never happens when you're like, yeah, I'll call you. Well, 30% of the time it happens. But when you pull out your phone and say, all right, have you ever had somebody just go, no? I haven't seen too many people shut that down. And so pulling that out, you ask right there, meet them in person, and then pin them down. So if you really want to have that conversation and you feel like that connection was there, set it right then. Put it in your calendars. One of the best things somebody asked me one time was, okay, what are your priorities in your life? What are what is driving your whole life? And I'm like, oh, God, family, business, and this. I'm like, all right, show me your calendar now. And does it match up? Maybe not. So your calendar tells you what's important to you. So make it reflect what you want to get out of it. So if this is important, and growing your business is important, and networking and leveraging those people that you know is important, then put it in your phone. Put it in your calendar. All right, send an email or text. When I leave a meeting like that and I made a good connection and somebody fires off a text to me and said, hey, it was awesome to meet you. That's it. I'll talk to you soon. Like, that goes a long way. It kind of cements that relationship. So if you just handed the business card and that was it, that's way down the list. If you follow that up with something like that, it's nice. A lot of people will send a LinkedIn message. And it's got to be personal. If it's something where I'm getting spammed, by, hey, it was good meeting you all at the event, and it's broad, it doesn't quite hold a candle to it. If you say, hey, Tony, it was great meeting you, and I loved hearing about that, something specific. It ties it back together. So follow up with some action. And then following up with them and following through, your word is your bond. So what you say, show up. If you set an appointment, show up to it. If you say you're going to follow up with somebody, follow up. And so one of the traps we get into is you send so many business cards, you go back, you put them on your desk, and they sit there. I got a stack of them like this, but I haven't committed to anything with these guys. But if I have a stack on my desk, it might be a week or 2 before I get through them. Like, oh yeah, I was supposed to reach out to that person. That's not going to look great when you actually want something from them or you want to actually build that relationship and take that next step. So don't bite off more than you can chew. Just commit to 2 or 3 and make that the point that this isn't, I'm not going to try to just collect cards. I don't even collect cards anymore. I try to avoid it. Like if you try to hand me a card, I try to walk away because it's a little superficial. And so until I get that connection point and I know there's something that we need to talk about, because my time is valuable, I hope their time is valuable, I don't want to waste it if there's not something there that I feel like is going to be worth that hour, that 15 minutes, that 30 minutes. So qualifying that time for what's important, because like I said, your calendar is where your values are. So if you're giving up time with family, with your business, with marketing, it better be worth it. So shrink that down and find the right people and then make it targeted. So just a couple people at each event. All right. So I want to jump this in. And so here's some type of networking events that we've seen that I know I've seen a lot of you at. We've had some lighter lifting ones. We've had some, check time here. You're good. We've had some chamber events. We get ribbon cuttings. Those aren't always networking. They're great to be seen, see people. But those, you can go find that person that you're looking for. Now you kind of get to see, there's some sign-up stuff. You get to see who shows up. So a lot of the regular events that we're going to are exposing you to those people and being prepared to ask what your need is this week. Finding those people that you're seeking out, ask those questions at those events. That's an easy way to do it. Free community events. You're doing charitable givebacks. You're working for some of our local people, Cold Water, Harvesters. You're connecting with people. Those are people that have like interests with you. So those are great places to network. Those are great places to connect with people. Any point of commonality that you can find with people is a great place to be. Surround yourself with. And if you don't have your full 5 listed, just show up to random events. Outreach events, talked about those. Referrals, leads groups. So now we get down into where you're diving deeper. You're diving into weekly meetings, maybe monthly meetings. You're gonna have more accountability. So a lot of the events, the follow-up, the stuff we just talked about on the previous screen, those are on you. It's all on you. Some of this stuff has structure. You need to show up every week, and there's value to that. So looking into one of those groups are very valuable. Mastermind. So now we're getting down into some deeper stuff. Has anybody ever raise your hand if you've been a part of a mastermind before? No? Okay. So masterminds are a step further where you're really surrounding yourself intentionally with groups of people that it doesn't need to be same industries, but sometimes they can be, where you're going to dive super deep and you're going to help each other out and you're going to present, you're going to talk about problems, and it's kind of like that board of directors at a deeper level. A lot of times these can range from, a couple $1,000s up to tens and $20,000, $30,000 a year. You can get into a lot of these. And then they go all the way up. But these are groups that they really dive in and get to work. So when you start finding and whittling it down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's something that it would be very, very good to look at. Because there's something that once you surround yourself with people on the same level or where you want to be, when they start sharing and they get into a room and it's a safe room where it's like, hey, we're in here to do work, some cool stuff happens. And so that's one way that, I've been a part of a couple of them that have been great. And I've made connections. I've changed my whole business models by getting feedback. And it's them drawing out of you. It's them encouraging you. And there's not ulterior motives because everybody's there kind of under that same principle. So we can talk about different ones that are around the area if anybody's interested at another time too. Getting even smaller, just talking about meetups, doing meetups with 1 or 2 people where you get a chance to share what you want in your business and how they can help you out, as well as them personalizing that for you. It's hard to just say, hey, I need this. Like, we talked about what referral you need. That's pretty generic. But if you could talk to me and say, hey, I know you're connected with this person, this person, this person. Here's how you specifically could refer me. Here's how you could help me with your network or introduce me to these people. That's different for everybody in here. So doing one-on-one meetups is so important because it takes that next level to that relationship building. And you just can't do that in a quick room. You can't do that in your elevator speech. You can't get that message out. So sitting down and each taking turns talking about your own business is one of the most valuable pieces of networking you can do. And that's why we always try to follow up our big, broad group networking with those kind of meetups, because that's the action part of it. And then I truly believe everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs a coach or a mentor. Either somebody that's going to help you build your systems, that's going to help you through that, or somebody that's been through it before, the mentor side. And man, if you can get them both, if you can get somebody that's a coach and a mentor, you're hitting a home run. But if you can just get a coach, that's great too, because you need that structure. And I have a business that I take home, and we've had a lot of times where me and my wife are running the restaurants together. And we would go cooking dinner, and all of a sudden something would come up, and we'll start talking. And it was a problem. When we were talking business and we're strategizing and we're talking issues, it was not a healthy way to deal with our business. You need somebody outside of that really close network, because it will infiltrate the rest of your life, and it's not healthy. And so you've got to have outlets. You've got to have people that you can connect with. So, even meetups and just people you can go to, masterminds and coaching, all that kind of stuff falls into that category of having somebody that doesn't have skin in the game. Maybe you're paying them. That's one way you're not having skin in the game. Or just friends that you trust. I don't have a lot of friends that I could go take a business thing to that I'm not going to get their opinion of everything else. It's not going to be as clean. And so I like to seek people that are almost like third party. I'd rather talk to a coach. I'd rather talk to somebody that's in my business elsewhere. Competitors, talking to your competitors. How did you do it? Somebody that's at the level where they're willing to go back and talk to people who are doing what you're doing. They're not threatened by you now. And so finding people in those space help take those conversations so that when you do have the conversation with your business partners, with your family that are business partners, with any of those kind of employees, that it's coming from a better space. And defining when you have those conversations also helps out too. So I'd like to see who has a coach in here, because I know that's going to be a higher number. So who in here, raise your hand if you have a mentor or coach, or are a coach. Yeah, there you go. Okay, double, there you go. All right. So there's some opportunity here. There's some opportunity to get plugged in with this deeper level. So if you're just starting and you're starting up here and you're trying to find out what groups there are to get plugged in with, let's look around and ask that. So what I want to follow up right now is I can answer a lot of these questions because I know some of the groups you're in because we're working together. I'm helping. I've met you. We have ACA. We have Referral Madness. We've got the Chamber. We've got different smaller groups. We've got leads groups. So I would like you all to share what groups you're a part of. So if you can raise your hand, tell me what networking groups that you are a part of. Networkers, Chambers leads.
Yep, and I've got one of my members here also. We meet every second and fourth Tuesday at Johnny's. I know there's another group that meets on Mondays, second and fourth Mondays in the morning. But yeah, it's been beneficial and something I have been a part of for, well, a little over a year, just myself, but as far as the bank that I work for has been there for several years. And we're like a family, so, we all get to know each other, and
Cool.
it's fun, it's good to know everybody, and, the leads that we do give out are meaningful, and I don't know, I say if you're not in one, join one.
Cool. Racking up the wins. That's
Yes.
good. All right, who's in some other groups? What other groups you have? Where you at? Yeah.
Well, network at Jackson County Professionals in Aging, which is industry, senior industry type of group. A lot of my competitors and a lot of my clients are in there. Metro Senior Resources, very similar, but it's Kansas City Metro focused as opposed to Jackson County. Blue Springs Chamber, which is very similar to this. It's networking on crack. Belong to a go-to group, which is an industry unique, industry exclusive, that's run by Chuck Queensbury up in Blue Springs. I also, there's a realtor who specializes in senior issues named Sarah Boston, and she has coffees on at Gusto's and then one on the other side. We'd attend that about once a month. Part of the Alzheimer's Association, on certain committees for leading the Kansas City Walk to End Alzheimer's. And then, just social organizations, Jacomo Sailing Club, Knights of Columbus. I used to be part of the ACA Business Group Club, which is there was a section on there, their teams are kind of halfway between masterminds and lead groups. I'm not sure exactly where they fall into that.
Yep.
So those are all the same. And remarkably, I think the most successful is probably this go-to group where we are industry unique up in Blue Springs.
Okay.
More
intentional.
More intentional. That's $40 a year, so it's not like we don't make our bank back in one single referral. So
Okay.
it's definitely worthwhile. We all know each other pretty well in that. Matt used to be, I don't know if you're still in there, Matt.
From time to time.
So Patrick hit something. That's a lot of networking groups. That's a lot of meetings, isn't it?
It is.
So could you say, and I want to kind of pick on you a little bit here, but we all have that. I've seen you at a lot of the same events, so I know this is going to be a common thing for several of you. Are there events that you go to that you think you're not getting out what you want out of it? Are there networking events you need to shed? You said you stepped away from ACA at one point.
Right, ACA. One is, and you mentioned part of it, is the ACA meeting that was over in Overland Park was just too big to get anything effective done at the meeting. And the one over here was too small that you're always meeting the same people.
Sure,
We didn't really have that mix. We all knew what each other did, but I never really felt like it was connecting and where the people at that meeting were thinking of us when, when issues came up.
Yep.
So, yeah, we did shed that one. The other ones, particularly Lee Summit Chamber, Blue Springs Chamber, always had effective, gatherings. It's just that there's so many of them that we cannot attend everything. But I find that there's a lot of bang for the buck in both of those two
Sure.
groups.
Okay, thanks for sharing. So I want to challenge that. Going back to the kind of the right people, right events. It's okay, and I would challenge all of you to, if you're going to an event and you're just not feeling it, if it's just not the right fit. We have a motto in Referral Madness: if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And we put that in at the very beginning to qualify out, here's the people we want to be around. And what I realized is that's almost a motto for life that you could do is, if you're doing something and it's not a hell yes, why are we doing it? So if there's an event that you're going to and it's just kind of okay. Now, it doesn't mean you don't like the people. You're probably running into some of the same people and you're like, yeah, it was a great conversation. But is it helping you accomplish the goals you're setting? Is it helping you to meet the people on the list that we just tried to write down and that I want you to work on after this? Is it helping you meet those? Because if it's not, let's find them. There's other groups. There's other people that are meeting. And sometimes what we're getting stuck with is we're going to these too many meetings and they're the wrong meetings. And that's taking up all your time. So let's find the right meeting. And so that's a little bit what I want to keep talking through is, are there meetings that don't have the people on your list? Don't have the people that are in the next one? So if you have that scenario, I'd love you to share right now. If you have somebody on your list, and I can share my where I think I might find some of those people if I want to go first, but is there anybody that would share that? If you have somebody on that list that we made earlier, and you're not networking with them right now, what does that person, what does that industry look like? And maybe somebody in this room has a group that meets that perfect need. Patrick's got 8 groups up here. It might be one of those. If you're looking to connect with the senior care spot.
I would like to network with Zachary Salazar.
Okay, who is Zachary Salazar?
He is a new team at Remax Elite. He sold 43 houses last year, and he's only been in real estate for 2 years. One of the agents that I have been working with joined his team, even though she's been in the business longer. So he just got on my lead list.
Okay.
Sounds like he's a great guy. I watched the video.
How do we get in touch with Zachary?
What was the last name?
Salad.
Joey.
It's an easy way to get in touch with them.
Well, I called. He didn't answer.
Where does he network now? That's the next step.
Yeah, he doesn't. He buys a lot of leads, so I know that's why he stays fairly busy. He did a billboard like when he first was in my office. They got a lot of people that way. So, but we as realtors are very easy to get a hold of. If we're not responding to your call, then it's probably just something where face-to-face matters. It does. A lot of us have relationships already with different places, and so you just have to make a connection in a way that somehow gets his attention.
Okay. Does he golf? Does he play tennis? Where's he hanging out at? Sounds like you're gonna buy Joey. Sounds like you're gonna buy Joey a coffee, and he's gonna take you to him. He's at the office.
But no, I can get you his.
Maybe I have the wrong number.
Yeah, we'll double check it.
Cool. Who else would be willing to share their person? Yeah.
I'll share mine. So I coach people all over the country and sometimes all over the world. And so my network is also, you know, national, international. And the person on my list whose business, like my kind of like business big sister kind of thing, is another coach who lives in Utah. And so that's probably a unique challenge for something like this that's based on more in-person networking. But I've had a great conversation with her, and I would love to continue that conversation. So I probably just need to back up a few slides and like reach out and send the email.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean she's not connecting with some kind of networking group, whether it's online. Maybe they go somewhere and get in person. I mean, how did you meet her originally? Or is it a coaching network?
It was, yeah. So we both got certified through the same school and just
Perfect.
through, you know, the Slack channel on that. So, yeah.
Awesome. So maybe they, you know, a lot of those will have follow-ups and do get back togethers to keep them in touch. So leveraging that networking group is the same thing. Awesome. Anybody else like to share? All right. Well, to recap, and then I can answer a few questions if anybody has anything as we wrap up. But finding the right people and the right events takes you so much further because you're surrounding yourself with the next people you want to be. So you're going to influence yourself, your business, and you're going to be able to take that next step. And so finding that, it sometimes can be tough. So utilize us. You know, we see each other a lot. Obviously, I know a lot of you. Ask for help. Ask for that connection. If all of a sudden that person pops into your head when you're gone, send me a message. Say, hey, I'd like to meet this person. Maybe I know him. Maybe I know who knows him. Maybe I know, you know, the company that I need to send you to for him to introduce you to him. Find that right group because that's going to make those networking opportunities much more meaningful. Be interested, not interesting. If you want to dive deeper, take those connections. If you want to sell more, practice that. It's so easy to fall into a trap of trying to impress everybody else, but you will always get, you know, you'll be viewed a lot higher if you are the one that are, you know, you're humble and you're asking questions and you're drawing out of them. There's so much value to that. So just practice that. Use that. Make this statement a part of your first conversation is, how can I help you this week in your business? You know, if you walk up to somebody, you don't know what to say, just say, hey, how can I help you this week? What are you struggling with? What are you working on? Can I connect with somebody? Just make it about them. And it always goes to a place where it ends up being a good conversation. When I go into a place and I don't know where somebody's at, that's what I start with. And it's amazing that the opportunities, the businesses that come out of that, the business that gets passed, and then the connections that you can make just by treating it like that and asking them. Get rid of your limiting beliefs. Stop telling yourself you'll be good once you do this. Stop telling yourself you don't belong there because you do, and then you'll act like it. So take that step as well, and follow through. You know, keep it up. Follow through, and follow through from this conversation. This conversation could just be the starting point. Where if you want to grow and you want to grow your business, you want to reach out and you want to grow your network. Maybe you're very new to networking, and maybe this is something that you're going to take that next step. We're here to support you, and so this room right here can help be a big support for you.